Hi, this is the Practical Mystics podcast, where we have modern spiritual conversations about the mess, the magic, and everything in between. I'm Kimberly Crawford.
And I'm Shannon Havill. Welcome and welcome back to those of you who've caught our first couple episodes.
Oh, yes. Thank you for sharing space with us, right?
So today, a couple of topics in mind to talk about, but we're going to start not on those. You were telling a story.
Yes,
We were just chatting up, like catching up, and talking about what we wanted to talk about today, and then you were telling a story, and you're like, I got the message to record, which is how it happens for us.
yes, right. Absolutely. Right in the middle of our conversations, we're usually told to start work.
Yeah.
So goodness, I was talking about, and now I'm like, where was I at? I think I was talking about finances, right?
Oh yeah, our money, um, like programs and the things that we are instilled with from growing up. And
Right.
okay.
And so I was listening to a book, and I thought, well, if this woman can shift herself out of her old patterns, then I can too. And I've listened to a lot of good books. One of them is "It's Not Your Money" by, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to try to bring it up for people in case they want to.
Oh, we can add that to the show notes, right?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So "It's Not Your Money" is a great one. And that was very helpful. Her voice was very calm. And when I was stressing out about not having enough and really feeling like I was stuck in lack, and trying to figure out, like, how am I going to pay for, things like the remodel or our
Or the tax
kids.
bill that I have
Yeah,
coming in April.
right. Yes.
Good
The,
timing for this
the
conversation because
tax man. Yeah,
I'm thinking about
absolutely.
my processing all the things around that.
Right?
Yeah.
100%, 100%. Or things that like, I wanted to do, like maybe help my parents with some kind of wellness, thing that would help them out. That, not that they've ever asked me to, but you feel like you want to do those things and be generous, and then yet you feel too tight to be generous,
Yeah.
right? And
That's
so there's this book by Amanda Francis, and it was called Rich as Fuck. And I thought, how audacious, the title. And I'm not, like, we're not getting any perks, to promote any of these books, but I think that there's something worth checking out if they call to you. Um, but one of the things that Amanda said was to put yourself in proximity. And she would go and take her laptop to like a fancy hotel,
Mm.
and a hotel that would also have business people coming and going, and or whatever aligned with whatever she was trying to build. So it's like, you go find your people, go find where they're at, and not necessarily, like, you may not be able to get into their workspace, right? But you can get into their resting space or their after work space. And being in proximity, you end up striking up conversations. So it really helped her go to the next level.
Okay.
And I found that finding, whether it's audiobooks or YouTube videos, if you can't get to the people yet, really help shift our frequency. And then you feel more compelled to go find your people in person,
Mm.
right? But it allows us to start with priming ourselves and shifting our frequencies, because we could go and scroll for an hour on socials, right? Or we can binge on Big Bang or whatever we're into at the moment. But if you just take half an hour and you put yourself in the proximity online of people that you want to learn from, then that's going to get you further towards your goal. My people say that that's only half of of the recipe, though. You actually physically have to go out.
Okay. Because it's like the tuning fork thing again, right? We talked about
Mhm.
how we resonate frequencies and the environments that we're in. And so what I'm hearing you say is in addition to following people online and hearing and being exposed that way, like get into the frequency of wealth if you're looking to have wealth. Is that?
Yes, or entrepreneurialism, or learning how to be abundant with food. So one of the things that I'm
Mm.
also
Hang out in the garden.
constantly right,
Sorry.
exactly. No, it's all good. Um, my spirit squad is asking me to redefine what a rich life is,
Yeah.
right? What is wealth? Well, after half a century on this earth, I realized for me, wealth is health
Hmm.
and time
Yeah.
and relationships
Yeah.
and anything I can do to extend and expand joy within those spaces, then I'm a wealthy, rich person. And I find that when I'm in those spaces, then the energy of money finds its way to me a lot easier. Or it may, and I'm not, I also had to get over like, well, then it should be free. it's like,
Right.
but there's a also an essence of pay to play. And
What do you mean by that?
by like a door would come up to me and be like, well, in order to actually share space with this person, they cost quite a bit of money that to me that it feels like a money that feels uncomfortable spending
Ah, I see what you say. Yeah.
in order to connect and be in that community.
Hmm.
But if that is going to advance my skills on a huge level and I'm going to learn in 3 months or 6 months everything that got this person to where they're at, that it took them 15 years, then I'm right. I'm getting that condensed knowledge. And I also have a community around me of people at this moment who really want to learn the same thing,
Mm.
right? They're trying to learn how to deepen relationships or activate their sexual power. So they're in a Kim Anami um, course of like well fucked woman. I did that course, and so it was super uncomfortable. And I there were certain things that I was like not. I'm like, okay, I totally am down with her here, but I don't know about this. And so it's like you take what works for you, and then you toss out the rest.
Yeah.
You're with all these people all over the world, in Netherlands or Arizona, or it could be somebody in your backyard in the Bay Area, but they're very much dealing with or curious about expanding the divine feminine within them and how to do that, right? And then getting rid of all of the old definitions or paradigms of what it means, to be a feminine being.
Right. So what I'm hearing is whatever it is you're wanting to bring more of into your life, surround yourself with those individuals in those communities. And if you can do it in person, that's even going to amplify the energetics even more. We're not advocating stalking people. So don't you know, like chase down individuals that space you want to be in because
Right.
those are some lines we don't
Yeah. Keep
advocate
it
from.
legal.
Create some counter frequencies that you don't want.
Yeah. Stay in a state of grace.
Yes, yes. And
Well,
so we're talking about like surrounding ourselves in the wisdom and the frequencies and when we're hanging around with people who have similar desires for those things, then it just creates that synergistic swirl of energy, I guess. Is that?
yeah. Yeah. That's a it's a great summary. Like, have you ever heard, oh gosh, there's a lot of motivation coaches, and they'll say that you're the sum of the five people that you hang out with.
Yeah.
Right. And I had sent a little snippet that had like some Warren Buffett wisdom to each of the kids. And I had asked them, what are three things that you learned? What's something that you disagree with on this podcast? The third was, who are you hanging out with? Who are your five people? And so they listed the five people. And then I had asked, are they on in the same mindset of this topic, or do they not care about this topic, or you know what I mean? Where are they at?
Yeah.
Because that's who's pulling you into their world and their likes as well.
Yeah.
Because we're still trying to figure out how to be the strongest signal for us,
Right.
which is like the number one task or instruction that I keep getting, right? And no matter what's going on in the world or with your friends or your partner, like you must be the strongest signal for you.
Right.
And at times you're going to be taken out of that, and how fast you get back in is the training and the discipline that we have, whether it's through meditation or exercise or journaling or conversations, and putting yourself in like-minded communities that hold a vibration that's similar to yours, so it's easier to stay in it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
once you're in that and you're very strong, then you can go into various places that may not be in resonance, because you know how to hold your business,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
until you
Keep
do,
yourself solid.
yeah. So
Yeah. That's really great. I love that you brought that up about staying in our, like, attuning to our inner frequency of, like, by being in touch with our higher self, which we've talked about in past episodes, as our like primary uh energy to attune to.
yes.
Um but sometimes we aren't accessing some of these other things we want to bring in more of, like, maybe love or financial abundance or those things. And so by getting guidance from from our higher self, from our heart, of like what situations or people do we want to hang out with, or what kind of community or group do we want to seek to help us bring more of that frequency in, but we're still always following from the inside of our own attunement to our own heart and higher self.
I love it. And you call that coherent heart coherence?
Well, heart mind coherence is when your heart and mind are synced up.
Mm-hmm.
So coherence is just a, now I'm not a scientist, but it's just a term of, like, you can be in coherence with some low frequencies, or you can be in coherence with some high frequencies.
Right.
So heart mind coherence is where we're like bringing our mind down into our heart, because this is where our wisdom is, and out of
Mm-hmm.
chaos. And so, like, but coherence in general, as I understand it, is, we could walk into a room that's a little dicey on the energetics, and when we get into a solid place, we could actually be that beacon of heart coherence for another person or in a room. And so, or if we're wanting to, maybe we're not feeling so awesome and we want
Mm-hmm.
to enter into a room and be open to allowing ourselves to attune to the higher heart coherence of the room.
Right.
Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yep. Absolutely.
Um, and so, like, this is where, like, paying attention to how we're feeling, our emotions, our energetics, because, like, I could go into a Costco and forget to, do my energetic sovereignty and maintenance to, like, be in my nice little bubble here, and I call it getting whacked where I'm like not conscious and I go into Costco or whatever and there's like, "Rah," the chaos of that. And then like grumpy Shannon shows up. It's like, and I'm all, what happened? It's like, oh, I got whacked with like all this external energy, and now I'm not in my nice bubble anymore. And so, you can become coherent with chaos if you're not paying attention too.
Absolutely. I love that scenario. I call it energetic hygiene with my
Yeah.
clients,
Yes.
right? You got to practice energetic hygiene and get yourself all tuned up. And the magic bubble is a fantastic tool
Yeah.
to be able to have a filter and an anchor point for when you're walking around in places like Costco.
Yeah. Or entering a virtual, workshop or an in-person workshop. I like to, take a minute to just, get in my heart, and so I can enter the space in a solid way and not get like swung off balance by whatever else might be in the room. Um, and so really paying attention to our energy, and this circles back to what you were talking about with wanting to hang out with individuals or in spaces that have a quality or an aspiration that you want to bring more of into your life, right? You put yourself in those spaces and now you're kind of attuning yourself with intention,
Right.
with like, I
Absolutely.
want to attune to this particular frequency in this space,
Hmm.
or these frequencies or these aspirations. And so when you're in there, you're not just like, hey, here I am to soak up all the energy, because we don't know what's in the space.
Right, right. Well, and we also don't want to be the succubus too, to be like, oh, I'm also not at your level and I'm just gonna feed off of everybody and not work to keep myself there. I'm just gonna use you.
Yeah, so that's a really good, say more about that, because there are people who don't know that they can get their own light from their internal source with their connection with, source, God, whatever the universe, whatever you call it, and from
Yeah.
their own heart. And so they're out like grabbing energy from other people, and
Right.
that's not cool either. It's learning again. So what's your perspective on that? Like, what
So
wisdom do you have on that?
from what I know about, so succubuses were created, and it's supposed to be a sacred um service. So if you think of like um somebody who has something toxic in them that
Hmm.
they're really having a hard time getting out, if you have a succubus type quality or skill set, you can go in and help that person remove that thing and then offer it up to the light and help them um, cleanse themselves, right? If used in a high vibratory way.
Yeah.
But
Don't
if
try
you're,
that at home unless you've been trained in that, because you could then take
yeah,
that into yourself and you don't want that.
right,
Yeah.
right, absolutely. So, you absolutely need guidance and scaffolding and realizing that you're pulling it out of somebody and straight into the light or into a another tool or vessel in order for it to return back to pure potential. But we don't need to get into that in detail. Now, being an untrained succubus or somebody who has learned, what I'll say, not healthy behavior,
Hmm.
then they feed on other people's energy as a way to amplify their own or feel better. And I'm sure we've all had friends where how you know that they're a succubus is you go in and you're meeting up for lunch and you're excited. You've had a great day. Shannon, you got through Costco, you put on your magic bubble. You were energetically accountable, and you haven't seen this dear friend in a long time, but because you have history, you relax and you kind of take off that filter, right? And you're just very interested in connecting heart to heart. And that person has either maybe gone through the ringer, or they have, they're in this very low vibratory place, and they're sucking onto you, and all of a sudden, they're telling you about all the stories, and you're trying to pour into them of like, oh, but you're so good at this and you can do that, and they're like, oh no, and the things that they're saying are like ratcheting you down, and you feel like lower and lower and lower, and by the time you get up at the end of the lunch, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to take a nap,
Yeah.
and I feel horrible, I'm
Like your
so
full
sad,
green battery signal is now like yellow.
red and flashing like, warning, warning. The check engine light on your spiritual dashboard is on and blinking. Right. And so it's like, so in your body, this is how you know. And you also know, like, if you are not in your heart enough to feel, I don't feel good, your brain will tell you, if your brain is not connected to your heart, like, this person isn't interested in hearing me help them with suggestions, right? So even if you're at the point where you're still practicing the heart mind coherence, and if you're still more in your head, then it will feel illogical. the
Right.
the interaction will feel illogical to you, and then you will feel like it's a waste of energy. So
Hmm.
that's still, all of the components are all trying to give you in all different ways feedback for us. This isn't in your highest well-being nor their highest well-being. They're basically feeding off of you,
Yeah.
right?
These are some good
So
practical signals that you named there.
yeah, do you have any other ones for people where they can check in and identify, like, oh, I may be having a succubus moment?
It might not sound like those words, but definitely. Well, again, when we start tuning in to like what are we hearing, feeling, seeing, like everybody gets messages in different ways, which is could be a good bouncing point onto the Claire's conversation we talked about earlier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, absolutely.
um yeah, I just call them flags on the field. Uh which is funny because I'm not even like a super big sports fan, but
Mhm.
when I played soccer, there was like yellow flag on the field and then there was red flag on the field, like um so the messages are going to be different, but you'll know them. And you've probably, well, I'm talking to our friends that are listening, right? Like you've probably had experiences, maybe even in your mind right now, you're going like, oh, I remember thinking that or feeling that or hearing that. And so now there's like a different way to relate to those messages. And
Mhm.
so, in those moments, we can still have compassion for people. But when we bring our attention to our energetics of like, you're not pouring your energy because your battery goes down because we've allowed somebody to either, succubus our energy
Yeah, right,
or we're
right.
voluntarily, like there are some of us who just feel so much compassion we want to help, so we're like actually voluntarily like pouring our energy out. Nobody has to come take it because we're just like to a dysfunctional level giving it away.
Yeah.
And so by tuning into what we're hearing or how our body's feeling or our emotions, and yeah, I think you named a lot of them, but I'm just saying like everybody gets their information differently. And so by tuning into how your information comes in will also allow you in those moments to kind of maybe pay more attention to, like if you're a strong feeler, um, and you feel your body, like if you're sitting there like really tense listening to somebody's conversation, that's a signal.
Your
That's a
body will
flag.
always tell you.
And then, we don't have to like even bring the other person into like, I feel like you're sucking my energy. We just get to work over here,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
we get to just kindly like send them heart, re, set the intention that they can source their own light from their heart and their higher self,
Yeah.
and we stop allowing our energy to be used.
Yeah.
So I think I went off topic
No, no, it's
there.
perfect. I think people were like, yeah, what do I do when my, Aunt Betty calls and, she's a sweet little old lady, but everything is always going wrong on the farm. And, she's never accepting the practical advice. And we are also realizing that it's not our job to fix people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So you giving them tools to help them is fantastic. You can also close your eyes and say, I no longer offer you my energy. My energy is not mine, to take. So you just you can take a moment to take a nice deep breath in and imagine that you're disintegrating that cord between you guys, and ask your spirit squad for help if you need that. You
yeah.
can also, I encourage my clients to excuse themselves, get up and go to the bathroom,
That's a
because,
great, yes.
right? You
Or
don't,
or you can do that. That's what I tell people. Like, go to the
yeah,
bathroom. Nobody usually questions like why
no one
you're
says
going to
that,
the bathroom.
right? Exactly. So if you can get up and go to the bathroom, take some deep breaths. You know, number one, offer yourself grace. Because if you're like, oh, I did it again, or if you're on the phone, ask them to hold on for a minute, put them on mute. You are a sovereign being with free will. You have the choice to take a moment. There's more than enough time for you to reclaim your energy back. And as you take that deep breath and you're anchoring yourself into the earth, right? You're bringing yourself out of your head and that shame spiral that may be starting into your heart, right? Asking your spirit squad for help, or source, or whatever you call it, right? And put your magic bubble on, right? And activate that filter again. And then cast the intention out that that person may be connected to their higher selves, like you had said, to be able to harness their own energy. And then be able to go out there and don't offer solutions, ask questions. So, what that does for somebody who is in, and they may not be a succubus all the time, they just may be in that energetic moment,
Yeah.
presenting themselves that way, asking them questions. Well, what are you going to do next? Well, what are you going to do next? Well, turn that energy right back into themselves.
Yeah.
And they're either going to get bored with you or get frustrated because they don't have access points anymore. And you're like, you're no fun to
That's
talk to,
true.
which
That's
is,
true.
which is fantastic. Because if you're no fun to talk to anymore, they're going to go find somebody else to feed off of. So I
Yeah.
have this story I want to share with you.
Yeah.
So I told you last week, no, President's Week, we went to take the kids to Disneyland.
Mhm.
It was raining, which was kind of fun sometimes, a bit uncomfortable sometimes, but we're all wearing these ponchos. We're standing in line to go on, I forget which ride, but you usually see pods of families, and it's very unusual to see one person going on the ride by themselves, but it happens. So it so happened that this gentleman was by himself, and we were all potted up and trying to like strategize what our next step was going to be, next ride. And you could see this guy is just hanging out in this hour-long line all by himself, but there was something that pinged, don't engage, don't engage, because he had this energy of like just like tentacles coming out, uh, you know? And so I was like, that's interesting. But then there's a part of me that's like, oh, you were primed to be a good girl, to help people feel comfortable. You see him all by yourself. You have a party of 4 people to talk to and pass the time away. My my daughter's amazing. Like she can tell. succubuses from a mile away. And we've taught her to be respectful, but you don't have to offer like respect. Respect is also earned,
Right.
right? But you can present yourself as a respectful person, and because you respect yourself, you're going to operate in a certain way with integrity and honor. So that doesn't mean that you have to respect every elder, because some of them don't warrant it. And she's very keen on that. Where if you are doing something shady or you come up with shady energy, she's just going to be like, nope, peace out, and like shift her focus somewhere else. So she sees this guy behind us, and he's even talking out loud to himself, just waiting for us to catch anything he's throwing out. And she looks at me like, don't do it. Like, don't engage with this guy. She could hear in my mind, like, I'm like, oh, it's raining and he's by himself, right? And so sure enough, he throws out something, and I'm on my phone, and like just respond by accident. I was like, oh, and he was like, it is windy out, isn't it? And then like just right, and I was like, oh no. And he's like pushing himself into the circle of our family. And now he's talking at everybody, trying to like push the tentacles in. And and it presents as somebody who's very excited to be talked to. He seemed very lonely and really excited that this group is opening up for him, even though we weren't, right? And he's really pushing himself in to anchor a spot into the tribe while we're going through this line. My daughter looks at me, looks at this dude, and takes her friend and literally turns her back to us like nope, with nope energy. 14 years old. She's just like, I'm not doing it. I don't have to be like, I'm not going to be part of the situation. I have a text. Excuse me. She was just like, nope, I'm not dealing with that. And I looked and I thought, oh shit, right? And then now I've engaged my husband. Now my husband feels trapped. He's looking at me like, what did you do? Like, who is this guy?
You were like, I opened the door. Sorry.
And then he's the kind of person who's like, you're trying to shut the door and go back to like, okay, well, it's great chatting with you. And like you turn your back to go back to planning where we're going next. And he's just trying to literally move his physical body around to get back into the circle, where you're like, oh, this is getting creepy and like not good. And so then it had to be where my husband now activated his masculine, former Marine, got real big, real tall, and projected his energy out and was like, all right, later, dude. And like literally created a shield to shield all of us, from him, to disconnect from him. And sometimes you have to be, I don't want to say rude, but it's going to feel uncomfortable
Yeah.
to be like, I'm like, all right, great chatting with you, or maybe not great chatting with you, but like, I'm going to go focus on what my family needs over here and cut it off. Sometimes you have to do that if you're not as smart as my daughter. Not engaged in the first place.
And I just want to acknowledge to some people who are listening, this might sound kind of rude or cold or, like we're supposed to be nice to everybody. And, yes, let's be kind. But when people are encroaching in your space, those are, it would be like somebody at your door, you open the door and somebody just walks in your house, right? It's kind of like energetically feels like that, where you're like, sorry, I didn't invite you in. And um, so
Yes.
as people become more awakened to the subtleties of the energetics that we are as humans, and
Mhm.
the energetics of the spaces that we live in and the energetics of other people, um or you become like more attuned for people who are like been on this journey for a while, and you just get more sensitive to some of these things, then it's it's a the experience is different, so it doesn't feel like the surface
Yeah.
experience. I don't know if that
We
makes sense,
we we
but
were we were taught to be polite. We were taught to be tolerant, and because well, like we'll go through all the Clairs, because we're becoming more online and like more sensitive, like you're saying, we're picking up new frequencies that we didn't recognize before. So sometimes the most kind and compassionate thing we can do is to call it, is
mhm.
to call people on the bullshit and also call us, because sometimes we're the succubus. So, we can also be the one who, my friend calls it basting. I love it. Such a good word, right? Where
Tell me more about
you
that. I've
you
not
have
heard
a
that term.
client who wants to come in and talk about their mother again, and you've given them all the tools to um, offer them sovereignty and energetic independence, and they're not doing any of the things. They just want to talk about the problem, and that makes them feel empowered, or that victimhood makes them feel important, and they're not ready to let that go, and they just want to baste in their problems, based in the energy where they are, right? And they're really not they say that they're interested in changing and shifting, but they're really not. And I don't know about you, but there have been times when I've totally basted the heck out of a experience or a moment, right? Where I'm like, oh, poor me. Don't you want to listen? This is what's going on now. And they're like, no, I don't. Like, I'm tired of it. You tell me more than 3 times this is a choice,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
the sorry.
It's
Uh,
okay.
Thanks, we're recording. Thank you.
This is
My
this is
husband's so sweet. He was seeing if I wanted more coffee. It's like, we're
Aww.
recording.
How sweet. Real life happening. It's all
Yeah.
good, girl. And that's like
Um,
a beautiful moment.
it is. So basting, oh man, I have some people in my life. I just want to, if they ever listen to this podcast, say thank you for loving me through all of my years of basting, because there have been some doozies where I was stuck in it. And you know what that looks like to me energetically is,
Mm,
like if life is a river and we're flowing through,
yeah.
if you've ever seen a river with the part that's kind of off to the side where the water just swirls and it's
A little
kind of get
pool.
a little murky because it's not really in the flow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what that looks like to me, where we're just kind of stuck over here off to the side and we're still
Mm-hmm.
connected to the river.
Mm-hmm.
There's this part that's just swirling in the yuck.
And this, yeah, yeah.
The yuck. I mean, one of the things was grief of the loss of a life that I had envisioned for myself with children. That didn't happen.
Mm,
Um, and then the other was a job that I stayed in way too long. And I was just always complaining about my job. And so, now that I have exited myself from that and done a lot of healing and clearing out all that old crap in the energy, I look back and it's almost oh, oh,
yeah.
I'm so grateful for the people who had so much grace for me during that time and listened to the stories and um, loved me through it. Uh, but if you're stuck there, it's really important to get out of the eddy. I think that's what they're called, eddies, like in the river, just you're stuck and swirling. And I feel like, ooh, this is bringing up some emotion. I feel like
Yeah.
I lost some years of my life because I was just stuck in the story.
Yeah.
story of it, the pain of it, the trauma of it.
Right.
And so through like being conscious of like one of the things I work with clients on is paying attention to the stories you're telling yourself and others. Because that those are signals that will show you where you're stuck.
Yeah.
And so maybe we are that person that you were saying that, you know, the people who really love us,
Yeah.
they're making it through with us. But there are other people who are just like, ah.
Ye-
And I was fortunate enough to have people in my life who would just be like, wow, you really are like pointing out
Yeah.
what was going on. It's like,
Yeah.
because when you're in the box, you don't see it always.
No,
Have somebody
no.
outside the box go like, here's what here's what's happening right now. And
Put down the baster.
yeah,
You can stand up and get out, but you don't feel like you can. You feel like this is
no,
the only way to survive.
yeah. And that was after being on my spiritual journey for like a decade or more at that point. So it's like you could be on a spiritual path for a long time and um, and still get stuck
Yeah,
in
of
these things,
course.
right? So it doesn't matter how long you've been on your spiritual path. We could still end up in a succubus situation where we're the succubus and didn't notice, or we get stuck in the eddy and we're not listening to you know, the graceful offers of ways to get out. We're just like, nope, I'm gonna keep swirling over here in my shit. And yeah, it's so
Well, I
one
appreciate you sharing that, that, you being in that situation and
yeah, it just can happen to any of us. And I think the other thing that someone pointed out to me early on was that you know, I've heard them referred to as like energy vampires too, is another term for a succubus type thing. And one of my first teachers, she was like, have compassion for these individuals because most of them don't know they're doing it. So it's not like they're this, you know,
intentional,
yeah,
like being who's like looking out to try. Yeah.
they're people in pain.
Yeah.
That's where I was stuck. I was in pain, um, in different ways, and so I didn't even see who I was being inside of all that pain.
Yeah.
And so we can have compassion for people. And so when we're turning our back or when we're maybe spending less time with someone because it's not a frequency alignment for us anymore, we can do those things with compassion.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be assholes about it or be like, you're not in my vibe anymore, so you're out.
Absolutely. This is where discernment comes in. We were talking earlier about discernment and how there are going to be times when you've got to decide, is this a person in your tribe that's having a moment,
Right.
or even a season of
Hmm.
this, and you are offering love and compassion, or this is somebody where this is their MO, this is their vibration. Like, I know, like, there have been coworkers where you come in and every single time you're collaborating and brainstorming, and you feel like there's momentum, and then there's one person that can derail it and just punch holes, not because they're trying to make it better, but because they just, that's their thing, right? And you're not gonna have liftoff and advancement with that. And the longer you keep those people around while you're trying to initiate this liftoff or go to uh, expand and create harmony, it's okay to be discerning and say, okay, this person's not part of where we're going. And the kindest thing, honestly, is to let them know that, so then they can go find their people that they're more in resonant with. And because I can only imagine that one person that's always punching holes probably doesn't feel seen or accepted, or or a match either, and is showing that they're frustrated too,
Yeah.
right? So that compassion that you're talking about, right? So sometimes the most compassionate, the kindest thing is to call it.
Yeah. Have a direct and compassionate conversation with somebody
Yep,
about what
absolutely.
they're doing. I mean, if it's
Yeah,
somebody you really care about, that is that is what I would want somebody to do
want.
for me.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I wouldn't want somebody to just cancel me because of
Right.
what I'm going through. Because again, back to like most of us aren't conscious of how we're occurring out there because we're so stuck in our, and this is where we get stuck in our head and not in our heart,
Yep.
where the stories are like on replay over and over and over. It's like the record that gets stuck. For those of you who haven't experienced
Yeah.
records, they're black things and there's a needle goes,
Oh geez, that's
and
right.
then it can get like a groove and then the needle gets stuck and it just goes around in that same spot. It doesn't like progress and play.
Right. Oh geez. The fact that we have to explain what records are.
Yeah.
I don't know, Shannon.
Vinyl's making a comeback. So I think maybe some of the younger generations are now familiar with vinyl records and all
Yeah.
that. But yeah, we're all on our journey and
Yeah.
having compassion. It's challenging because there's a balance, but I think between maintaining our sovereignty and surrounding ourselves with the people and environments that we want to be in, and also having compassion and love for the people who are struggling and may not be at our frequency.
Yeah.
And we're all like going like this. So just because we've done work for a while and we've got our frequency up and life is mostly flowing and great and we're attracting the things we want and all of that, we can still dip down and have moments on the
100%.
freeway where you're like, you're an asshole for cutting me off, and then I'm like, who, where'd she come from?
Right. Right. Well, you bring up a lot of good points. And number one, Earth School would be not Earth School without choice, right? And the possibility to go through different experiences. And sometimes when we're at the bottom of the wave and somebody's at the top of the wave, then you realize that there's space, all these different levels in which to experience whatever it is we're going through. It's just showing us the vastness of
Yeah.
potential, you know.
Yeah.
Um, at the end, we realize that we're an interdependent species. We walk around thinking that we're supposed to be this single entity that can do it all by ourselves. And in reality, that's impossible. You can give a baby uh, food and water, but if you don't give it connection, it's going to die. And as a human race, we're built to be in groups, you know, family groups, chosen family groups, and within these group dynamics, there are going to be times when we are the loudest signal for ourselves and others because we're at the top of the wave, like you're saying. And then sometimes we're in the suck and we're in that eddy and we're swirling around um and we don't realize that we're stuck there.
Yeah.
And we've just got to keep that discerning skill working to see if there if one of our tribes or even somebody not in our tribe is stuck in the suck, and we can assist them through our compassion and through our grace to connect to themselves,
Yeah.
and offer a sacred space of just holding space for them for that. But holding space for that, you get to choose how long that's going to be. You get to choose what that feels like for you, and how to be able to keep and hold on to your well-being and your signal while you're doing that. And then for those that have chosen that this is going to be an operating system for them to be a succubus, right? Then you have to decide how long you're going to play in that arena as
Right.
well,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that goes back to a lot of social patterning that is starting to break down,
Mm,
especially for women, because we were taught to be of service at the expense of ourselves.
yeah.
And honestly, I think men were taught that too,
I think,
depending on what level of society you're on,
yeah.
right?
Well,
In
we've had
fact,
that conversation about
yeah,
some men feel like I go to work and earn the money, and then when I come home, my family feels like I've just disrupted their life. And I'm like,
right,
isn't this my family too? And,
right,
so, yeah,
100%, absolutely.
maybe they
Aren't I
feel like,
funding the tribe?
yeah, like I'm working this shitty job that I don't actually like to bring home the bacon so all you can have like this great life, like I
Right.
that
Yeah,
I think that's a whole different podcast about the masculine and feminine and all of
I
that.
agree. I
Um,
agree.
but I wanted to circle back to what you said because I think it was really important to point out that when we are disconnecting from people or spending less time with them or energetically not feeling aligned, um, you said that we have that opportunity to send them love and grace. And I think that is where um, we get to see where we're at in our consciousness. Because if we're just like, you don't fit my band, you don't fit my vibe, you're out. That's a low, that's a low vibe move versus this is somebody either I can't hang around with anymore or I don't feel aligned with collaborating with or whatever the thing is.
Right.
To offer them love and grace, to just we can always send people compassion. And so if we can offer somebody that we're choosing to not be around some grace and compassion as we're, you know, moving them along in whatever capacity that looks like, that's the higher heart band move.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that that is also a higher heart band move for ourselves in addition to that person,
Yeah.
because what we put out is what we get back. So if we're going around just chopping people from our lives, how's that going to circle back to you? And it's not always a straight line of like, I did X and now it came back as X, things show up differently.
Yeah.
So maybe you
Absolutely.
don't get that thing that you were, on track to have in your life, whether it was a promotion or something going right in your life. If you're doing shitty things over here and expecting good stuff to happen over there, you're probably in for a lesson in how the universe works.
Absolutely. Percent. And it's usually like the things that we don't tolerate in others, we end up having that same behavior and we don't realize it. And then we have somebody literally do the same thing to us. And then we go, oh, I see. I see how I could have maybe handled that in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, I have this quote on my wall that I look at every single day, and it says, the magic you are looking for is in the work you're avoiding.
Ah,
And it works for me in so many different situations. Um, and yeah, it's quite a journey. And I think one of the ways that we can be most of service is to not feel like our value and our worth comes from fixing somebody or fixing their problems, because then that identifies that they're broken. And when you decide that you're willing to hold space for them and just accept them from where they are and allow them to be that, then you're also stating that you trust that they know how to go to the next level, or when they're ready, they will ask for help. But I find that offering feedback that's not asked for is activating people's resistance, right? Because they're still, if you're trying to tell me how to do something and I'm still not even really understanding that I'm stuck, right? I'm talking it out and talking it out and talking it out, but people aren't asking me the questions to help me identify that I'm stuck. They're just
Right.
trying to get me to skip a step and give me the solution.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to still be here basting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that also has an element of arrogance in it, like that we know what they need to do in their life.
For sure.
When, every single human on this planet has their own journey, their own life experiences, and some people have come here to go through some shit because that's what their life path is about. And um, there's a book that I read early on called Journey of Souls. And I read it with a friend, and we were like, every time we'd get on the phone and talk about what we read, we're just like, it was without going into the whole thing. I can't, Michael, I have it over here. I can go look at what the who the author is. But Journey of Souls is basically this guy who was a hypnotherapist, and
Okay.
he stumbled upon accessing the super subconscious. So most hypnosis happens in the like subconscious, I guess. I'm
Okay.
not a therapist, just for, I've had it done to me, but so I believe it works with the subconscious. So he
Hmm.
happened upon the super subconscious, which he described as the part of the soul that remembers the in between lives.
Wow.
He spent the next 20 years intentionally taking people to this place, and they were sharing their memories of the in between lives. So he like mapped out. And so certain people confirmed information he had received from others. Other people were filling in gaps in the, you know, timeline, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, but one of the takeaways that pertains to this particular conversation is that, we plan our life before we arrive. We come here with the intention of accomplishing some things, learning some things, working through some things. Um, and then we get down here and maybe we do it, maybe we don't. This
Yeah.
one story was like this guy came down to do some things and he just fucking partied the whole time. He didn't do any of it. And so they also describe, when you pass on, you go through this like life review, and there's no judgment. Nobody's going like, "Hey, you didn't accomplish this and you didn't do that assignment," and things like that.
Right. Right.
There's
Right.
some interesting choices.
Yeah.
You have to go back and do these things still in some other life. Anyway, it was really great because what it left me with was we don't know what any other person has come here to do in their life. And just because something makes sense to me from my perspective of the life I've lived and whatever history and lives that I have access to from past experiences or the
Sure.
guidance of my team, like that may or may not apply to this other person. So we're like, "Oh, you should do this." Says who?
Right.
You know,
Right.
maybe they came here to struggle because that's what they're here for, in that the
Mm.
way they're learning their lessons. And another example was like, don't judge people who appear to have an easy life because we don't know what their last life was like. This might be a resting life for them. You know, It was
Mm.
just, there were so many concepts. It was just like, my mind was blown. But it gave me a completely different perspective in how I related to life and people and our journey, my individual journey, my thoughts and opinions on other people's journeys. And I would really encourage anybody who's interested in picking up that book. In fact, let me go look and I'll see if I can. Okay, Michael Newton, PhD, Journey of
Michael
Soul.
Newton. All right. That's definitely, I'm going to put that on the to read list.
It says Case Studies Life Between Lives.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, for you guys that are listening or watching, would you guys like Shannon and I to put a book list together? Would that be helpful of like books that have impacted us along our journey? Let us know in the comments and we can absolutely put that together for them. Do you think that would be helpful?
Yeah, I think so. And it's probably going to just be a living thing that, we just
Yeah,
we
living
add
document.
to because, we don't, I don't know about you. I don't always remember things until in the moment, like when I'm telling a story and I was like, oh yeah, that thing
Yeah.
from that thing. And uh,
Where did I pick up that information from?
fortunately, that
Absolutely.
was on my bookshelf. So it was easy to access, but it's not always like that.
Oh, I
But
love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm definitely going to pick up the book, and it really um, coincides from what I have learned from all of my channelings with my spirit squad, and I've learned to call it like stealing other people's experience when I get
mm,
too into like helping that I think I'm helping,
right.
but in actuality, I'm stealing their experience to learn. And what I had seen was a round table and like this menu of all these options. And it's like, oh, I want to learn resilience. Absolutely, I want to learn resilience, or I want to learn unconditional love. And you have all these like frequencies or concepts, but the details of all of that are really not necessarily like fine tuned for us exactly, or we at least don't remember them. But it's like, okay, so I need to learn forgiveness. Well, that means I need somebody to forgive. Somebody has to do something that's pretty horrible, and I want to learn it on a very deep level. So then you're, looking at this menu, and you're with your people that are usually come down in your lifetimes. You cross paths. And so then you have somebody that says, I love you enough to be that person that's going to hurt you so bad that you're going to need to forgive me. And I'm like, thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate this. I really appreciate you being willing to do this for me so I can learn this thing. And Joe's like, not a problem. We'll meet up later in life. I'm going to do something that's pretty horrible. And you're going to have to really work on it. Like, I'm going to give you a doozy. And I'm like, fantastic. Like, I'm all in.
Right.
But when I'm here to her school, I'm like, Joe. And then it's like,
Right.
but that's actually what we both, collaborated on and had the contract for.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, it's like, I love you enough to help be a part of this situation with you, and realize the interconnectedness and the sacredness of the lessons that have come out of these really, really hard experiences. And am I condoning anything that has ever happened to somebody out there that's been traumatic? Freaking hell no, I'm not.
Right.
Not even at all. And yet this perspective has helped me get out of the eddy,
Yeah.
right? And not swirl in the suck, and be able to find that little flow, that little current that pulls me back into the flow,
Yeah.
right? And when, gosh, I mean, so you and I were Gen Xers, right? So we had this beautiful, we probably didn't think about it at the time, but we had these pockets of life where our parents were off doing their thing and they were gone, they were working or whatever. And it's like, you had to go home, let yourself in, get yourself a snack, and you're supposed to be doing your homework, and then after that you can go play, and then you had to be back before the lights, turn on, right? That, at least that's
Yep.
what it was in my house. So you
Yep.
had like this autonomy, right? You didn't have cell phones. So even if it's on the weekend, and I would go, I had a friend named Liza, and we would get on our bikes, and we were supposed to go, like, we'd tell our moms, like, we're going to 7-Eleven to go get the Slurpee and all this stuff. But like, we would also like drive by the boys' house, that we both liked or whatever, and we were like, we took the long way to 7-Eleven. But we had the freedom to where it's like, oh crap, if I had a flat, then Liza and I had to figure out how to fix it or put the bike chain back on or whatever, because you sure as heck aren't going to drag your bike back home, and,
That's
with
right.
all the mud and everything. They'd be like, wait a minute, how did your bike chain fall off just going to, biking to
Right.
7-Eleven? Like, we had to be very industrious and figure stuff out. And we had,
Resourceful.
yeah, resourceful. And we had the ability to like really dive into the mistakes, to build the resiliency, to build the lessons, because we didn't have somebody looking over our shoulder all the time trying to manage our experience.
Yeah.
Right. And then so I felt like I could figure stuff out,
Yeah.
you know?
Heard things on the like YouTube videos on the Gen X generation, and that's a lot of they I think somebody referred it to like the MacGyver, generation,
Mm.
where and it's funny that you said that, you take off, because I was just talking to my mom, and when we were younger, I have a brother and sister, and there's a creek that was by our house that used to be, surrounded by a big field, and then you go through the field and get to the creek. Now it's tract homes. So we'd be like, Mom, we're going to the creek. And so just recently she was like, honestly, I didn't even know where the creek was. I mean, that's the mindset of the parents, right? They're just like, see ya.
I trust you're coming back. But how did it make you feel, you and your brother and your sister going and having that freedom?
It felt like it, oh God, that's a good question. How did it feel? I felt like independent, like, what I was left with actually from that experience? So I didn't relate it to this, but okay, so being connected with my higher self and my spirit team has me relate to life like, I don't know what's coming, but I trust in my ability to figure it out. And I know I'm supported because I've been on this journey long enough. My team shows up and a solution always appears. And and now in this moment, I'm realizing that experience of growing up also has contributed to my ability to relate life, bleh, my ability to relate to life in that way. Like, whatever happens, I'll figure it out, or we'll
Mm.
figure it out. Because when we were young in the field, and this actually happened, we had a creek and there was a big tree swing, and one of the kids went on the swing, dropped into the creek, went down a little bit, and there was a rusty old real estate sign, and he slashed his foot. We had to figure out, like, one, what to do with the bloody foot. Two, how are we getting this guy back? Because we didn't have cell phones. We couldn't call our parents
Right.
or 911 or any of that. So we
Right.
all had to, like, there was a group of us had to figure out how to get him back to the neighborhood so we could get him some help, right?
Yes.
And it's true that when you allow yourself to like step into some unknowns, some scary things and go through it, you build resilience, you build confidence. Um and my default likes to like, you and I talked about this actually before starting the podcast, is like, we like to know, like, what's the whole scope, what's the arc, what's the beginning, what's the end before we ever get started. And we did the opposite of that with this podcast. We're just like, we're going to just show up and record, and we're going to get better as we go, and we're going to figure it out. And um
Yeah.
And there's something exhilarating about that. There's something that is like exciting. Um, there's room for just fucking it up and having it be okay, not having it be perfect. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I think I got, you know,
No, what I'm also hearing you say is as you go through your experience and your spirit team are giving you different directions or inclinations on how to go through, you're also developing trust in yourself, trust in what the universe is providing for you, trust in the directions that are being given to you.
yeah,
You know, trust that you're going to get what you need when you need it, maybe not what you want when you want it, but
yes.
that's a different track. So I'm
And what
also
you,
being told to identify. Okay, so they're showing me the reason of suffering, like when we were talking about taxes and things like that, of like feeling being felt in a sticky place. It's like the suffering comes from the discord of being a person who trusts and knows, and then having a belief that's not real about something not working out,
yeah,
right? And pulling
yeah.
you out of that, what we call our signal, right? Pulling you out of that. And like me, when I'm worried about my kids not coming home or something going bad when they make a certain decision, and me wanting to like shepherd them, like do it this way and it's less risk. And it's like, well, have they not gotten it to work out? You know, do they not have the same access as you?
Well, and I like how you said you'll get what you need, because sometimes that shows up as situations that we're not loving as an experience, right? You know, it's like, well, when I did my taxes yesterday and I saw the big number and I was like, wow, all right. And I had a moment of my old money, you know,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like going down
Sure.
the drain,
Yeah.
and like, where's that coming from and all of that, you know, worry. And then I was like, okay, Shannon, use your tools. So I just did some heart focused breathing, got myself centered. And this is how I talk to my team. I'm like, all right, we have this thing that needs to get handled. How are we doing that? Show me where, like literally show me the money. What was that? Jerry Maguire,
It's fantastic.
right?
I love
And
it.
so, and not to say I'm not still dealing with some feelings, you
Yeah.
know, but I didn't, it's like when you feel yourself going down the drain, kind of like put all fours out and like stop yourself from circling the drain, right? Or like, hey, we're not going down any further now. And
Mm-hmm.
and get yourself back into, you know, coherence, and
Yeah.
so that I can start hearing the messages of what are the actions I'm going to be taking,
Yeah.
and or I'm open to things showing up from means by which I have no clue at this moment. Like, you know, magic money showing up. And I've had examples of that happening too. Uh, so it's again just staying connected, trying to stay calm in our heart so that we can hear or feel. And this might be a great time to talk about the clairs.
Okay. Yeah,
I think.
I do. I think it's a great segue. All right, let me go ahead and pull it up because we talk about it so much. Shannon and I wanted to work through or talk through um, what it means to be a multi-sensory being and what some of those traits look like. So, let's see, some of the most common clair senses, and clair is a French word and it means clear. And these, oh,
Thank you.
right? We get to learn something new every day. All right. So hold on. My screen's getting a little weird. All right. So the first one that they're offering is Clairsentience. So that's the clear feeling or sensing that you and I have talked so much about.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read the definition here: the ability to perceive emotional or psychic energy that is imperceptible to the five standard senses. This means feeling information in one's own body or emotional state that originates from another person, place, or situation. It's often described as clear feeling or clear sensing. How it might manifest: feeling overwhelmed by a stranger's sadness or anger, even if the person seems outwardly calm, right? So their mask is showing us one thing, but inside they're churning.
I've mastered that,
Um,
by the way.
the next bullet point: getting bad vibes or good vibes from people, like you spoke about earlier,
Yeah.
from people or places immediately upon entering, often without a logical or rational reason. So that's coming from your gut or coming from your heart, and your mind's going, "What are you tripping on? Everything looks fine."
Right.
Um,
Sentience is picking up on the undercurrent of the energy that may not be apparent on the visual.
Forward facing, coming from your eyeballs.
Right.
And then another identification of clairsentience is experiencing sudden physical sensations. So, a headache, nausea, tingling that corresponds to somebody else's physical state of being or a lingering energy in that room. So, I'm super curious to know, have you worked on a client and they're saying, I have a pain on my body or I feel heaviness in my chest, and then you end up picking up that heaviness, or maybe you call it out and they haven't shared it, but they're feeling those things.
I don't know that I've had that with a client, but I have experienced that with my husband, and my mom recently actually had a variety of physical things going on. And
Yeah.
visiting one time, I was like, I've got this weird such and such a thing in my leg or whatever it was. And she's
Hmm.
like, is it right here? And she'd point and it was the same spot. And I was like,
Dang, girl.
get that out of my space. Yeah. What about you? Because you work with
Same.
people in person, so that may even amplify.
Yeah, absolutely. And I usually have practices where, I've moved from being an anxious empath, right, to an empowered or conscious intuitive. And so to do that, it's like or I know now that I don't have to go and feel their feelings in order to better understand what's going on and who they are. And I try to explain to clients and people that being an empath can be a fantastic tool for survival, but being an empowered intuitive, the difference there is we are not taken over. It's like we're not allowing it into our space because we are not disallowing it, but by we're not being accountable for our energy. You're walking through life and everything's being thrown at you, so then you're overwhelmed. Or you're walking by, I love Costco, right? You're walking by all the TVs, and if they were to be on the news, and or in a sports bar, and then you're like, you feel assaulted by seeing some atrocity on the television, and then now you can't pull yourself out of that vibrational pool.
Yeah,
So yeah, so I've learned, because you end up, or I have gotten very depleted and totally burnt out, and I didn't realize what I was doing,
right.
right?
Yeah,
I was the filter versus being able to call that forward and practice the filtering outside of my body and not needing to have everything happen on the internal
yeah.
stage.
So you said anxious empath, and that reminded me of I before, when I was in my awakening phase, I learned what being empathic was because I was overwhelmed by emotions and thoughts and things like that that didn't really make sense to me. They didn't match up with my life. I might have mentioned this on a past episode, but um and so if you're somebody, there are a lot of people waking up right now in their consciousness. So becoming more in tune or attuned to the subtle energies, feelings, so things that may be new senses or experiences. That's why we're sharing, these examples so people will be like, oh, that's what that is. Because I didn't know what being empathic was. And I was literally overwhelmed with all the external energy. And so um, that creates a lack of clarity on like what's mine, what's other. And so if you're somebody who's experiencing that kind of chaos, if you will, in your emotions and your mental and thinking and all of that, um, learn more about what being empathic or clairsentient is, and then use your bubble. And maybe before we wrap up, we can give people the bubble and have them, that be the invitation to practice this next week.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be a beautiful idea. No, I love that.
So
And
clairsentient, that's just one.
yes,
Oh,
we've got a whole
we're gonna say
list, my
something.
dear. So, and then the last to round out is exactly what Shannon was saying, being deeply affected by crowds, leading to meltdowns or withdrawal, and having strong gut feelings that prove accurate.
Mm,
So, looking back on a situation, right, and going, I had a feeling it would turn out like this.
yep.
Right? So that's
Yeah.
clairsentience. So the next one is Clair empathy, which is clear empathy. And the definition for that is a specific type of clairsentience that focuses on the ability to perceive and feel the emotions of others as if they were your own. So
Oh,
it's a little bit different, right? That's more the empathic, like, I don't know if this is like if I feel sad or you feel sad. Like your sadness feels like my sadness, and I can't tell the difference. And
okay.
and that's where a lot of the empaths actually get stuck.
Yes.
So,
That's interesting you distinguish those, because I didn't realize there was that. I knew empathy, but I thought that was part of clairsentience. So, hey,
yeah,
look at
well,
us learning new things.
it it is an umbrella, but it's like this umbrella, like underneath the umbrella within clairsentience.
Mm,
So it's a deep, often visceral feeling of somebody's emotional state if you can identify that it's somebody else's emotional state. But oftentimes, in the beginning stages of awakening, you have no idea. It's like literally getting you're fine, like you had talked about, you're fine 1 minute, the next minute it's grumpy Shannon, and you have no idea what the shift is,
yep.
right?
Or I
And
used to
that's
drive by accidents, like if there was an accident on the freeway and I'm driving along and I would just like burst into tears and I'm all, hello, what
uh
what just happened?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So part of it as we get through further down the journey is you realize that you can help metabolize that energy in that room, right? By being that strong signal and just feeling the feelings, but sending it to, like we talked about, the drain, right? You can send it to the drain, you can send it to the light. Some people send it into a rose and then send it off back to source. So there's other things you can do with it, but first you have to be aware that it is not you and it is not yours. Oops, hold on. Technicalities. I'm running out of power, so let me plug us in before we go any further.
Yeah, and that's really important to be able to distinguish what's yours and what's not, because once I was able to distinguish the two, then that gave me a lot of freedom to focus on what was mine to start, working on,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
or to clear for myself, versus just like not letting all the other stuff in.
Yeah. Well, and it takes practice. So people say, well, emotions and feelings are random. Well, they're also you also can train yourself to be, I say, in a state of satisfaction,
Mm,
right? And because we don't want to go for happiness, because happiness feels it comes and it goes, but we're trying to get to this neutral point, and so being in a state of satisfaction, that's something that you can set your signal to, and then be able to get back to this neutral point so the wave can go up and down, right?
yeah.
And so it's like you're constantly retuning yourself into this state. And part of it is the awareness of realizing you're out of tune in order to get back in. Right. And so, like you have said so often, that heart mind coherence and then doing it through your breath and taking a few minutes to excuse yourself to get out and do it on your own. Or if you can't get out, then, I like to use Chinese medicine. And it's called the 4 gates, where you're pushing, at these acupressure points. And I'll press that, and then I'll take a few deep breaths, and that helps pull my energy down into my body. So that's a tool that our friends out there can use to get themselves back into that neutral, steady point. And then it sounds like you have also asked. I love the how you talk to your team, and it's like how you ask for help. Like, okay, guys, like, what do I need to do? Or, oh, okay, guys, is this mine? You know,
Yeah.
can you speak more about how you do that?
Sure. Yeah. So over the years, it's just it's like any other relationship, really. I know that maybe sounds weird, but so my higher self is I relate to, it's like an aspect of my soul that knows my plan and can kind of see out ahead of me, or can help me source solutions that my human maybe can't. Um, and my team, my spirit team, knows how to do things that I maybe don't know how to do. And so over the years, I started just asking for help instead of feeling like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to clear my energy, or I don't know how to ground, or whatever the thing is. I just ask for help because our intention is the most important ingredient in creating what we want. And so I can just tell my team, like, wow, I'm feeling a lot of chaos. Maybe I don't even have the clarity if I do know how to, do the work for
Sure.
myself. And so I'll just be like, help me ground, help me get me back in my heart, or, if there's something that's triggered me, like I'm super curious, and I use my team and talk to them like a resource for insight and help. So, like, wow, what is that just triggered me? And because it's usually something that's wanting to come up so it can go out.
Yeah.
And especially in this time right now, with all the energetics and the consciousness that's changing in the universe, we individually, there are probably a lot of people you're just like, that came out of the archives. And it's like, yeah, because it's been stuck all in here and it needs to
Love
get
that.
out, because
Came out
it's
of the
just like
archives.
a weight, that's keeping our frequency down. So it's like, get that shit out. And so when the emotions come up, and I'm like, what is that about? And it could be like, that's not yours. Because I also, part of my journey is doing work for humanity and the planet. So I often feel things that aren't mine. And so now I just ask, like, is that mine? They're like, nope, just let it go. You're just passing through.
Yep.
Or it's like, yep, here's some more of that money issue that you thought you did so great on working on. Here's some crumbs that are still circling, And so now I know, like, all right, I'm going to go internally and work with my team. And it's like, what is there to do?
Mm, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that so
So
much.
I kind of like, I don't know what the people that travel with posses, I just always picture like I have this invisible posse with me who's got my back.
Hmm.
So they're gonna help me out with whatever I need. And I just got out of feeling like I had to know it all, and I just ask for help, and I ask a lot.
So it sounds like you feel more free and you're able to be more curious by having your team be there to help support and access at
Yeah.
all points.
And I never really feel like I'm alone. And even like they'll tell me, phone a friend, like an actual human friend,
Yeah.
with the podcast. Ask Kimberly if she wants to collaborate, you know?
On a friend card. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, That's the
So
best. Okay. So we're
we were talking about the Clairs, weren't we? There are so many.
No, I love all the detail and I love your feedback and I think everybody else does too because part of it is people go, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? I can read this myself, but I don't have stories or experience to identify those key factors, you know? And yeah, that I think that's everything for people. I know it was for me because you're thinking you're the only one and that's not fun.
Yeah,
It's not
because
a
you
fun.
grew up talking to your team, right? I mean, I think
Yes.
you said like you just you've
Didn't
never
know any
known they weren't there or
didn't yeah.
you
I didn't
said,
know any different. Yeah. And I figure everybody else, because I came from a deeply intuitive family, that everybody had an aunt who saw ghosts or was a medium. You know, like all, you know, anybody who would die would go through her and be like, "Oh, Bob's okay. I just told I just told Betty, you know, that Bob wants to tell you blah blah blah." Right? I was just like, "Okay, that's just every other family." And then you kind of get out into the world, and you're like, "Maybe not. I need to go ahead and keep this to myself." I remember I went to I was in second grade and I had a teacher who sounded like she had a fight with her husband. So this is the masking, right? And she's setting up the classroom, and I had gotten there early. And I asked her if she wanted any help. And so you're putting the erasers on the places of the chalkboard. And she hadn't said anything other than, yes, you know, you can help me with this. And I said, oh, so um, I understand that you're sad, but he doesn't really want to like hurt you or, you know, sometimes misunderstandings take a while to work through. And this is I'm a second grader, so like what the heck is coming out of my mouth? And she just stopped and looked. Wait, what? And then the look on her face was like, "Oh, Kimberly, like like I don't mean humans, but like adults don't like like careful muggles." You know?
yeah, true story. I had experiences in when I was little too, where it's just like, oh, they don't see the wisdom in here because I'm a little person,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And
right.
so, and maybe we could just take a small sidebar because you work with kids and
Yes.
the parents of these kids who have these amazing abilities, which
Yeah.
there are more of them now than there were when we were that age, when we were
Yes.
little, right?
Yeah.
And I think that adults still relate to little people like they don't know anything, when in
Right.
fact, a lot of them know way more shit than we do in a lot of ways. But you work with these individuals, so you can speak more to that about like how do we shift as adults our relationship to these little people who are tapped into wisdom?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. It's a you have two different challenges. Number one, you got to be the safe space for your child so they can feel seen and heard and believed. That's really important, right? I think you and I both have had like imaginary friends. And it's like, no, that was like my aunt, you know, or my great grandma Letitia. And we're hanging out. And just because they couldn't see her doesn't mean that she wasn't real. Um, but so making sure that you're there to be curious and understanding that you're here to as a safe place for them to share whatever it is they want to share, and even if you don't understand it. The second is just because they are closer to source in a vibrational sense where they don't have all the layers of protection or filters that we have put on to not see and not feel and not hear and like turn down our clairs, um, doesn't mean that they're in charge of the family and that they're running the show, which some people in their spiritual communities are like, oh, well, that's my star child. Yeah, whatever they say. And I'm like, what? They're four. They are not supposed to be in charge of when they go to bed or what they're going to eat. Like, no, that you are still four. Exactly. And you don't need to have a strong, authoritarian governed family, but you need to have the authority of, this is our family culture. This is the respect, right? Or the compassion, or this is the value system that we move through. And you're going to uphold that, and you're not going to have a million different conversations so the kids can, get a yes one day and a no another day. That It's so important to have consistency for these kids, because they don't know what to believe, and they don't know like where the walls end. So to have a stable parent is the best gift you can give them,
Mm.
you know? So
Like what
having
I'm
different.
hearing is like guardrails, but not squashing them.
Yes, 100%, 100%. Because they're like, be free, is they're going to get themselves stuck and in trouble because you are not giving them the safe. They need training wheels. Just because they have all of these special abilities doesn't mean that they don't need you to protect them, or to show them how to cultivate discernment, or how to cultivate integrity,
Mhm.
right? Because you can use these skills. We can go into another podcast, but man, when I was 13, I don't know, something amplified and went on, and I was I was able to be Jedi. Like, you want to give me an A for this math test, and you know, these aren't the joys you're looking for. And they'd be like, I want to give you an A for this math test. And, and I wouldn't study. All shenanigans abound. And it was in a little moment awesome, because you felt like you have all this power, but I wasn't operating with integrity. And you know what? It turned off. And I had a moment of being in the silo of like quiet, and I thought, holy crap, this is how people that don't have access to their superpowers, like, this is how muggles live. Oh no, you know, it was like, it was a trip. But for people who are raising little people who have all of these multi abilities, stay curious. Ask them questions. You don't have to correct them like, oh, you mean it's an angel, or oh, you mean it's this. Like, you don't have to define it for them. uh Let them tell you what they're experiencing. Also, you need to tell them that they have sovereignty, and that they have the right to claim their personal space, whether they're physical or non-physical. If they're trying to go to sleep and grandpa keeps coming, it's a true story. I had a client whose little, gosh, was he 3 or 4? Very, very young. I want to say he was 3, but he was able to articulate that grandpa was coming to him when he was asleep and would wake him up to play. And that he was just, because he's like, I'm so tired. And she's like, well, why not? What's going on? It's like, oh, grandpa keeping me up. So you have absolutely to tell the kid the right to claim your space. And one of these days I'll read my Monster Be Gone story for everybody to show the kids how they can do that, and claim their personal space. But you can do that as a parent, and you can also do that in ways of, when you have a little kid who doesn't want to hug and kiss their grandma or grandpa or auntie or uncle goodbye, don't make them. They can wave, physically show them that they are able to protect their space, because you may not be picking up that that person energetically is off because they're putting on that mask that everything is fine, but that kid feels that they are like crunchy, and they don't want to be all up in that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then they don't necessarily know how to clear everything.
Right.
They're figuring it all out. And if you're not there to go, okay, well, this is what we do. We take a nice deep breath in, or we get our wiggles out, and we shake all that off of us, and we think that our kids spazzing out, doing zoomies in the backyard like our dog is They're just riddled with ADHD. Maybe, but maybe they're also trying to metabolize some energy that's too much inside their body, and they're literally using their physicality to move it through.
Yeah. So again, instead of like, calm down, maybe you just like make sure they're not around sharp objects as they're zooming out in their energetic
Yeah,
detox, you know?
exactly. Like you said earlier, you're the guardrails. You funnel them outside, and then you see who can race to the blue car the fastest on the sidewalk in a
Yeah.
safe way,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. I appreciate you sharing all of that. Because I think there are probably a lot of parents out there uh, who are not understanding what's going on, and or even with a partner,
Mhm.
My husband and I have been on, fortunately, a spiritual journey together, but it's not
Yeah.
always, we're not always tracking like this. Sometimes we're like this, and sometimes we're like, and we're always,
Yeah.
communication and syncing, but, um, letting people have their journey is important, even for the little
Yes.
people, because we don't
Mhm.
want people controlling us in our journey. So,
Absolutely. We don't want someone stealing our experience. So,
no, no.
absolutely. I
So
love it.
what's another Claire? What have we've done? Clairsentience and
Claire
Claire
empathy.
empathy. Okay.
And so this one is Claircognizance, which is Claire
Mm,
knowing.
no.
And
So what is
so I
it for you? Just
the
before you get to the description.
um Claire knowing for me is it's like downloading a file that is instantly accessible. And it's not like linear where it's sentence by sentence by sentence and you unpack it like you're reading a script or something. It's like you just know all of the things all at
Yeah.
once, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it works for you?
It is. I described it to my husband one time. I was like, I get this entire concept in like this tiny little file. And he goes, oh, like a zip file. You have to double click it for it to. I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a perfect example. I mean, a
exactly.
lot of times I get lost in translation where I'm just like, let me give me a
Right?
minute
Trying
to
to crunch through this.
bring this down into some words.
Right.
But yeah,
Absolutely. So yeah, so that or um just knowing like I have the answer before the question is even fully asked, and I don't necessarily know the backstory, but
yeah,
it doesn't matter because like that's the answer.
yeah.
And I'll find it in a funny way sometimes when I'm doing appointments for like the dentist or for my kids. And they'll say, well, how does, March 26th work for you? And I'm looking on the calendar, it's open, but I feel no, that you have lots of stuff going on then. And I'm like, but I don't though. It's actually quite open. And then I'll book it, even though I hear you're busy that day, it is not going to work out. And then like 2 weeks later, it's like that date has to trump the appointment. You have to call back and you're like, God, if I just listened.
Yeah.
Directions.
Yeah, the knowing. I used to struggle with the Claire, what would you call it?
Claircognizance.
Claircognizance. Um, because we live in a world where it's like, where are your resources? Where is your backup to, validate that thing? And so sometimes I'd get information through my Claircognizance, and I'm like, I don't have anything to confirm that is true or accurate. And that's always an interesting situation too. When you're
Mm,
getting information from like the field of the all and the everything,
yeah.
and you don't have some like scientific study to rely on, that's kind of a mind fuck a bit.
Oh, well, and so going back to the story you're talking about, like going in with your friends and your sister and brother with the crawdads and the trusting of knowing that you're going to be able to weave through that experience with whatever you need. And then it sounds like the claircognizance, it's like having that knowing and the details of like maybe the how or the why or the what, but then not having something that a person that has not accessed their claircognizance can track the source and then feel it's valid. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah. So how do you deal with that?
Um, it depends. Like if I'm in a conversation where, I just get this hit of information, uh, some sometimes I just don't say anything. And then down the road, something happens where I get validation that what I just got, or um, if like I get certain directions or insights, like I got an insight into like how to work in my heart portal and
Mm-hmm.
some really clear. I mean, I was taught that a long time ago, but there was some additional like nuanced detail that I got not too long ago. And then I heard Dr. David Clemens talking on oh, Pam Gregory's show.
Okay.
He said something that was exactly like the instructions that I got or the insight that I got. And I was like, what? And my kid was like, "You're not just giving me a bunch of lines of bullshit. Come on." It's okay. So sometimes it's just like being like note to self, and then something else comes along that validates it. And so over time, what happens is you just trust that you're getting insights that
Yeah.
maybe you don't have something to confirm. Now, I'm not going to go like do brain surgery on somebody because my clear cognizance says to go to this part of the brain. And yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Right. That's where our
but
discernment comes in.
yes,
Is
and,
is this the highest well-being for this person? For
and
this
some common sense.
Yeah.
Common sense. We're still on planet Earth where common sense is a good tool.
No. I want to go back to like the that ability to download something or the knowing and say you get it for a client or you actually let's put it the situation you're at the supermarket, you're standing in line and then you have this download of information about this person for this person. um how do you deal with it, or do you say anything, like how do you know
Oh,
when to share that insight,
oh,
or do you
I don't know. I think that's like an on the
per
like
person?
per the situation,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, with people I know, I'll just be like, "Hey, I got a message for you. Are
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
interested?"
yeah.
Because we could get messages for people and they don't want to know. And so that's where asking for permission before you just like
Perfect.
blurt something on someone that they may not be prepared for or interested in.
Right. So you're
Um,
saying permission is a very important part of the two-way street.
yeah, I think depending on what the information is,
Yeah.
if it's kind of inert, then
Hmm.
maybe you just share it. But if
Yeah.
it's, like some insight about something they maybe, um, should do or consider or whatever, then, or insight to something that they're struggling with, like we were talking about earlier, maybe they're not open to your insight.
Right.
Whether it's your human suggesting what they do or it's an intuitive hit,
Right.
it might sound the same to them regardless of the source.
Yeah.
But what about you? Do you get hits for people in the supermarket and
Yes. Yes. Or I will, and I don't really do a lot of mediumship work for people, but if it comes up in a session, absolutely. But I will be out in the world and I'm like, who are you? like Grandma Rose is here and she wants me to go tell little Emma. And I'm like, nope, I'm not. Nope. like I'm just standing behind little Emma and I'm gonna freak her the fuck out if I start saying your Grandma Rose thinks blah 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 blah. you know, um, and there's no camera happening. We're not. So I love. I feel that's super important as people are coming online and they'll probably be very excited to share all of this new knowing, this new level of data that they now have access to,
Yeah.
right? And they're going to be like, I got this for you and this for you. And, and like you had said, they may not be ready, they as the others,
Mm-hmm.
to hear that. And just because you're picking it up in the field, because now you're able to access more of somebody's subtle body field, doesn't mean that you have the right to steal their experience. You have to have a consent,
Yeah.
right? And so consent is a huge piece of this journey as we move along. And when I was younger, I that's part of what I had learned is like blurting out what you see or what you sense is not the best thing to do. Whether they believe me or not, it's also just to respect their privacy, and their experience. And so I ask, oh, I've got some information, or would you like some feedback, or and and then I can tell them what kind of feedback it is, depending on how close we are,
Right.
and then share it that way. But yeah, it's an interesting road to walk, but I advise our friends out there to again exercise your discernment and make sure that you are respecting other people's sovereignty to have their own experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, let's just name it. Regardless of how your information comes in, and we'll touch on the other Clairs in a minute,
Yeah.
but they're all various ways of seeing. So we're basically like seeing what's in someone else's field, right? They're
Hmm.
whether it's their mental body, their mental, so the layers of our energy fields. Some of people are newer may not understand all this. We have different layers. We have an emotional layer, a mental layer. We'll go through those later too. But um, so we're picking up information in their field, right? And
Right.
so you don't want to just like intrude into somebody's space and announce, like what's in their field, basically, is what you're doing, or in their mind, and you're like,
Yeah.
who invited you in, kind of thing.
Right.
So
Right.
it is to be conscious of like what we're actually doing is accessing people's private database. We're
Such
reading
a
or getting information.
great way of putting that. I love that. That's such a great visual. So it's like the Clairsentience is almost like somebody's speaker is blasting out their music, right? And you're picking up the music that they're blasting out. But the Claircognizance is you like putting your Ethernet cable into their computer and then you're pulling out all of the data.
That's a good way to
Yeah.
distinguish. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
So we've done Clairsentience, Clair
Empathy.
empathy. We've done
Hmm.
Clair cognizance.
Yep. Which
So
is the knowing, clear knowing.
the feeling, the knowing.
Right? Absolutely. Let's see. So, oh yeah, to close up claircognizance, beyond offering the profound insights, is also having a strong sense of certainty that other people doubt, and then receiving flashes of inspiration and understanding complex topics. So, one of the things that is being debated right now with all of these new kids, these little star children out there, they're being called savants, right? It's like, oh, they're 4 years old and they're playing Mozart, or they're able to do all of this, all of these dynamic things. And it's like, but there's no way that they have the skills. So, how are they manifesting this? So they're downloading it, and it's like kind of like the Matrix, right, that we had talked about before, where it's like,
Yeah.
I'm downloading kung fu and now I'm a kung fu master.
When
They're
Neo put in the like how to fly a helicopter, I
yeah.
still need out for that experience personally.
I can raise my hand for that. Totally. So, I mean, and that would also be a fun invitation, is like, if you're in a place of uncertainty, or you're like, oh, I have resistance because this is new and I don't know how to do it, like, ask your team, ask your spirit squad, like, let's activate our clear knowing and claircognizance and download that business. Like, I'll take a zip file, please, on how to do my taxes or, how to flamenco, and then go do that class that you're going to bumble through, or maybe be fantastic,
Right.
who knows.
Right.
So, all right, so the next one is Clairaudience, which I think people have heard a lot about. So that's clear hearing. Yeah, exactly. Do you have a fun memory or insight or tools to?
So the Claire audience, yeah, I mean, it's funny that we're talking about this because at this point of my journey, it's all kind of just information at this point,
Sure.
and I I don't always I mean, sometimes it's super clear how it's coming in,
Hmm.
um, but Claire audience is I have like a ton of examples, but okay, one time I was making this soup, and I heard like somebody was talking to me. So this is what clairaudience sounds like to me, is when I hear somebody that said something.
Yes.
And so I heard put coconut milk in that. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And that's kind of sometimes how I distinguish if it's my thinking mind that came up with something, or if it was just like an intuitive insight, because my
Mm,
thinking mind feels like, oh, what else could I put in the soup? And then go through the list of things I could put in the soup. To me,
yeah.
that's my thinking mind.
Yep.
Versus this was, I was just making the soup and I heard put coconut milk in it, and it came as a surprise, and I was like, that sounds great. And so I went and got the coconut milk and did it, and it did turn out great, by the way. um, so that's one example
Mm,
of their audience for me. What
that's
about you?
awesome. Very similar. I hear, so it feels like it's like in this area. So, or it will feel like my head is a cavern, but it's still coming from like a certain point within the cavern, but it doesn't feel like it's coming from the operating system that goes through all of the stats of like how to break something down. But yeah, and it'll for the most part, the sound is similar, but then sometimes if other people are coming through, then it will sound different.
Because so let's distinguish this, because there's hearing your higher self in your spirit team, but then
Hmm.
you channel. um I mean, channelings, there are a lot of ways people channel, but you channel in the way, if I'm understanding it correctly, that you can receive information from non-physical beings, right?
Correct.
And that sounds, what I'm hearing you say is that sounds different than your spirit team talking to you.
Completely. Yes.
Okay. Can you
100%.
describe like generally speaking, what does that difference sound like?
Um, those were really great questions. When I channel um the group, I'll call them Ka Amun Ra, because that's how I know them. And they sound and feel like they're coming from a separate place up and out. Um, and depending on how I channel, there's two ways. Now I've grown to be able to have a conversation where they don't have to push in, meaning they don't have to push into my body and then my voice will change. I will be able to kind of see with my eyes closed, kind of a thing. It feels more comfortable to close my eyes, but I can still see.
Mm.
But I am also pushed into the back of my physical being. And it's like they're operating the physical being in order to channel the information. Um, but there'll still be, I don't know what I call glitches, because they've got to go through my experiences, my vocabulary, right? My definitions. So sometimes I won't have the correct word, or I don't have an understanding or knowing of how to say the thing, right? And so they'll be like we're trying to sift through, like,
Right.
right. At least that's how I feel it to be. But it will be stuff that I couldn't come up with on my best day, you know. And when it's over, I will also not remember everything. Like, I will hope somebody recorded it, or ask me, they're like, oh, can you say that again? I'm like, absolutely not. I can absolutely not say that again. If it's me, I'm back and I'm not channeling anymore, I cannot say that again, because that wasn't me who can create it in the first place.
Right.
Um,
I've had that experience with like sharing information with a client, or maybe it's a friend. We're having a spiritual conversation, and it'll just come out.
yeah,
And then later on, they'll be like, remember that thing you said? And I'm like, nope. Be in a room with white padded walls if I remembered everything that like that.
I love it. Same. Yep. Very much. Very much.
So
So,
that's channeling, and based on my understanding, like Lee Harris, who channels the Z's, that sounds
mhm.
like a similar like way that channeling is done. The way he does it is what you just described. Is that accurate? Yeah.
Yes, I would say that that's very similar.
Another way would be,
Being able to have it come through, but it's more filtered, like I said, through my vocabulary. I am more present. I'm not being pushed into the background. I'm more of, you think about like um, it's like a feed that I'm reading the copy for somebody, but I'm much more present feeling,
mm,
and much more present in the translation of what's coming through.
yeah.
And I have found that I like that better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a while since I've literally gone into like a full trance meditation type mode in order to communicate that way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for
So
sharing that.
you're welcome.
I it's so was I guess for people who are just starting to maybe experience things, or people who've been on their journey a while, and as we lighten our frequency, raise our frequency, we become able to access different gifts, or maybe the gifts that we came online with. So like,
Hmm.
for example, my understanding is with all the Clairs, some of us come in with kind of a default uh gift that is kind of like, it's just on board. We don't have to learn it or get more proficient at it. It's kind of like our most prominent gift. But then we can work on building up the,
Developing others. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so where was I going with that? Um, channeling. Oh, so maybe if you've been on your spiritual journey a while, and you're starting to maybe have new different experiences. Like, I have a friend who teaches light language and
Hmm.
channeling. There's certain things that maybe people at the start of their journey aren't experiencing, but down the road you might.
Right. Right.
And so tuning into things that are changing within you, I guess. There's maybe a different point I was going for, but I got lost in the whatever.
No,
Uh,
it's really good. Yeah, I believe that you're right. More people are coming online, and they're going to be able to um, be a vessel to bring in that energy. Um, and I know that some people are like, okay, well, I also, if I can bring in a lot of high vibrational energy, depending on my frequency, I can bring in low energy too. And I'm scared about what is out there.
yeah,
Um,
that's
a-
legit.
right. I think we both have had experiences that we can share on another podcast.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I was called to write down to share with everybody is I filter out all energy not in vibrational alignment with my intention to explore my right Clair audience, Clairsentience, whatever.
Mm,
I call in to focus my attention to source and welcome the co creation of beings who align with my intention here today.
hmm.
So, like you had said earlier, Shannon, like the intention is like the key ingredient, you know, to whatever we're building.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, because there are a lot of energies out there. You know, we live in a world of duality, and so there is the sun and the moon and the day and the night, and there's light energy and there's dark energy. And so being conscientious of that, not fearful, but being mindful of what we're opening ourselves up to. I have a friend who I worked with a long time ago because she went to this retreat and she she ended up with this being attached to her energetic systems and
Mm-hmm.
getting really sick because it was
Mm-hmm.
literally like feeding off her energy, and it wasn't a like a demonic energy. It was just a soul that hadn't passed and was, but I asked her, I was like, so what was your recollection of the experience that, before this experience, it was this, and after the experience, I had this new, hitchhiker, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, I was in this beautiful setting, standing on a rock in the sun, and I was like, I am open to everything. And I was like,
Uh,
oh, yeah,
yep.
discernment.
Got to dial that in.
and
Yeah.
and to keep it simple, I mean, you can share how you do it, because channeling is one of those things. I was going to ask you, did you learn this or was this a natural gift? um but before we get to that, I wanted to just say, like, I have set my intention to always work in the light and in the energies of love and light. And
Yeah.
so everything I do is with that context. And that doesn't mean I don't come up with things of the shadow to work with, but
Right.
the energies that, speak to me, come through me, um, are of the light. So I'm not
Yeah. Yeah.
inviting in unwanted energies.
It's
So
beautiful.
back to
Yeah.
the question of channeling, was that a learned skill or was it something that was just on board and then you shared how you put your container for the energetics?
Yeah. It was something that was always on board.
Mm,
And so I never felt alone.
mm,
And I always felt like um, that my teachers were not, most of my teachers would not be here on earth. In fact, I was told that most of your teachers will be in the non physical, and to just trust in that, and, also be discerning. Um, and yeah, so I learned at a very young age that to be in control of my frequency and to set my spiritual dashboard on, love and light. I don't even want to say high vibration because sometimes that uh, gets people confused, because if you look at like the low deep tones of whales,
mm,
right, you would call that a low vibratory sound, but that frequency is like beyond potent
Right.
and super high energy. Um, so we've got to be careful. So I like to say potent, right? But my recipe is in for my highest well-being and the highest well-being of those I am in service to.
Yeah.
And that helps to filter out, if anything is not of that same intention and you're not a vibrational match, you can't come in. We're not playing. I'm not, you can't. The byproduct of setting your potency so focused and deep is protection. That's the byproduct. But if I ask for protection, I've got to be careful because then I'm calling in something to protect against.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like to call it sovereignty, energetic sovereignty. And um and maybe part of it was due to what you just said, but also protection to me is like doors closed,
Mm-hmm.
which the doors are closed, the doors are closed, right? To everything.
Yep.
So protection, right?
Yeah.
Versus sovereignty is like choosing. It's like I am making a conscious choice as to what I'm allowing in and what I am
Mm-hmm.
not allowing in.
Beautiful. Yep. I love
And
it.
so instead of, putting up protection, I like to put up sovereignty spheres, which is the bubble we talked about before. Like
Mm-hmm.
imagine this beautiful bubble on the outside of my energetic field,
Yeah.
and it's radiating love and light wherever I go. And
Yeah.
if there's some like less than light energy that's coming toward me, instead of it uh just like bouncing back crap back out, I just imagine that whatever crappy energy was coming in, when it hits that bubble, it bounces back as love. And so it's just like transmuting the shitty energy and putting back out love. So
That.
I'm like a walking frequency, I don't know, what do you call it? Transmuter. So let's talk about that word for just a quick second. Transmuting to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask what it means to you. But
Mm-hmm.
um, so my understanding is that energy never goes away; it just transforms. And
Yes.
so transmutation is a word that basically means taking energy in one form and I'm going to use the word energetically alchemizing, but change
Oh,
frequency into something else.
yeah.
And so, some of us have come to the planet to not just do our own personal work, but to do work for humanity and the planet. And so that's one of the things I was shown early on, is to just like um use that as a tool.
I love that. Yeah. I feel the same. It's basically just changing the form of that energy and shifting it into um a well, I like to just shift it back into pure possibility because who am I to, right? To really, unless I'm working with a certain element and I'm trying to structure water or build a structure energetically for a specific thing. But yeah, like what you're saying, walking through the world and having a transmutation bubble, I think that's freaking awesome.
And it keeps the crappy energy out, like, when so you don't get whacked with
Yeah.
whatever
Whacked.
energies
I love that.
there.
Spiritual mobster, spiritual gangster there.
Yeah, it feels like that actually when I'm
Right?
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's something you said. Oh, so when I'm just to clarify, when I'm working, with myself or clients,
Uh-huh.
I'm have the intention to take energies like programs or paradigms or things that have been with me a long time that are ready to be released. I
Uh-huh.
send that into the transmutation, into the universal transmutation light. So basically, the way I see it is it's like putting it out of my physical body where this heartache or trauma has lived. I'm releasing it from here and I'm putting it back into the universal pool of energetic possibility and let the universe decide what is going to happen with it next.
I
Um,
love that.
but it's different than just throwing crappy energy out into the space, right? It's like a dog shaking its fleas off into the room, you're like, don't get your fleas on me. So by just having your intention that everything that's being released goes back into the transmutation light for recycling, and then always fill back in with your own soul light essence, because
Yeah.
the universe does not like a vacuum. And if you don't fill it in with something, then you may get back what you released, equal or.
That's a great point. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, we don't the universe does not like a void, and
Yeah.
it will so fill it with intention. Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Well, so I we are halfway done. So should we table this as part 1 since it's already 2:08, and then we can come back and do the rest of the other 4?
Yeah. Do you want to just name them so if people are curious, they can go look into it for themselves and then we can come
Sure.
back and have a different conversation?
Absolutely. So we were finishing up Clairaudience, which is clear hearing. So then we have number 5, which is clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. Uh, Clairalience, which is clear smelling, which is what we were talking about. Remember how I was like, I can't remember that some weird name, but yeah.
I have not
So
heard of that.
Clairalience, I think that's how you say it. So it's Claire, Alience. So aliens, I think that's how you say it. I don't know out there. Anybody correct me and tell me if I'm butchering that. Um,
Oh, it sounds like
so,
having aliens come.
well, and get this one, Clairgustance. Guess what that one is?
Gut feeling?
Clear tasting.
What?
The
Weird.
ability to supernaturally taste something without putting it in their mouth. Clairgustance. Yeah.
Substance.
Yeah.
That doesn't even
I don't know. Could that be made up? Maybe. Let's do some
maybe.
research on that.
Yeah.
But then there's the ability to gain information by touching an object. So I think we saw that in Poltergeist, didn't we? That little lady was touching something. So I believe that's called clairtangency. I've been able to do that as well, where I touched a lipstick from a friend, and I had this flash of her jumping onto her ex-boyfriend's car and writing a very not nice term in her lipstick on his windshield. So when he came out from work, he saw it, and I,
That's crazy.
I yeah. So I
So,
gave it
so the
back to her,
lipstick you touched was the lipstick she wrote with, and
and I was
you.
like, "Dude, did you do something untoward with this lipstick?" And she's like, "What?" Yeah. And I was like, "Did you happen to use this as a writing tool?" And she was like, "Holy crap, Kimberly, how did you know?" And I was like, "Oh man." Yeah.
That is so cool. You have a lot of cool gifts I've not experienced, so I love hearing your stories.
Well, it had I had to lock that down and also teach my kids. My son was that way too, and he could not walk into like antique or thrift stores.
Shit, right?
Yeah, like especially at like little boutique antique places where they have like each person can have a little section
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
all their little collections. And he would literally, I didn't know when he was a little baby, he would just freak out and not want to be in there. Like, to the point where like my husband had to hold on to him outside until we were done, because it's like if your baby's crying and throwing a freaking fit, there's usually a reason. So to just go, yes, they could be tired. Yes, they could be hungry. Yes, they could just not want to fucking be there anymore because they're over the whole thing. But there also could be feeling really, really bad, and they're feeling it and you're not, you're desensitized to it and they're freaking out. And so for you to push them through it without acknowledging that there's times it's like you can't put your kid in a bubble and go, oh, we'll never go through something that is uncomfortable, so I'm just going to take you out of everything and make it so nice and comfortable for you. It's like, no, okay, this is the magic bubble moment where you go, okay, let's recite how we activate our magic bubble, or we're gonna breathe through it, and then you decide as the parent with the guardrails, do they need to go through this, or can you pull them out and we can practice at home, so then when we go back into a situation we're ready.
Yeah.
Right, like there
Yeah.
was a moment where that same child, we went into a World War II museum, and they had this interactive museum experience where you walk this path and it's the sensor triggers, and then with air it acts like it's shooting bullets at you as you're so it's showing you like what it was like to be a soldier and having to run through being shot at as this Civil War soldier without any, like, I mean, I'm sure there were signs, but I have all these little kids running around, right? And from like 8 to 3, and I didn't see that that's where we were going into, but it's like darker, and then they have all the speaker systems, so now you're hearing people going, ah, like from getting hit from the imaginary, right? And my son, like, one son was like, yeah, and he's bounding right through the whole thing, and for him, then his energy, it was great. The other one, white faced, was like, felt like he was having like a PTSD moment. It was just freaking, it was like he was out of his body in another space. And it wasn't just like a normal kid going, this is scary. He was like freaking somewhere else. So I literally like pulled him back out of it. And I was like, look, like, if you run from this, you're going to be running from this forever. So we're going to go ahead and take a nice deep breath. We're going to put on our bubbles and we're going to walk, maybe run through this thing, and know that this is just air, and that you have control over you're not going to react, we're going to respond. So we're going to practice responding, right? And then so we literally walked into, I am in control, I am in control, I am in control, I am in control. And you're just breathing, breathing, and breathing and getting the fuck out of there. But I knew that if I didn't stop to go ahead and walk him through this, that this would be a thing that he would be running from. I mean, not that you're going to be set up, but I mean, loud noises,
Yeah.
like a car bang, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Fireworks or whatever. So whatever was unlocked in that moment had to be addressed in that moment, or it would have been this unknown weird thing that kind of followed him forever.
Yeah. Wow, that's a powerful story. And to people creating experiences going
Yeah. Come on, bro. Things I
shot
could
at?
live without. Yeah. Yeah.
Be
And
one of
like,
those. No, thank you.
and not having like a guy going, like, are you aware that we were about to walk through this? Meh. But
Oh man, that's crazy. So, something that occurred to me when you were telling the antique story and also sharing with parents to like maybe tune in beyond the obvious things if your kid is continuing, to have an unsettled experience.
mm-hmm,
Um, so my understanding of learning like energy, uh, best practices, if you will, is
mm-hmm,
to like as a practitioner not work on a child without the parent's permission.
right.
And my understanding was like 18. I don't know, maybe that's changed because kids are so much more, attuned at this point. But so I'm curious, like in that situation, could somebody, like if there's a parent that's trying to practice, these things, could they, on behalf of their child, put the sovereignty sphere around them and see if that works?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can ask to collaborate with your child's team.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to be able to move through it, because you ask, with the intention, for my greatest good and the greatest good of my child, and the greatest good of everybody in this building in this moment. So you're not going to be able to, like, do something that's good for you and your kid at the sacrifice of everybody else,
Right.
right? It's like you're realizing we're all interconnected and we're all raising ourselves to this level above the shit that you're trying to get out of, all of the suck. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. And to bathe everything in love and light, and to bathe everything in grace and compassion. Those are different frequencies. And to transmute what is ready, because you can never force anything that's not ready to transmute. But if something just needs a gateway or a portal, then you can imagine, just like we can imagine that drain that sucks off all the negative and, not let it attach to us. You can imagine a portal straight to the sun, right? And what is the sun good? It's just this beautiful, brilliant star that can transmute something like that. So, let the sun help. Call it in and say, anything ready to be transmuted, here you go. Here's, if you couldn't access it before, here's this. This is the VIP Concord train to the sun.
Yeah, that's a great resource also. And I love that you pointed to that because that's Practical Mystics is about like the things that we are experiencing in everyday life are part of our spiritual journey. This is when the lessons show up. This is when the opportunities for tuning into some of our gifts that we may not have known we had, or using our tools to shift an experience.
Yeah.
Like, this is the stuff that happens in life as we're living it, not when we're sitting in our beautiful sanctuary space doing our morning meditation, right? I mean, great things happen there too.
Right.
But, the on the court practical experiences happen in life. And so
Yeah.
having ways to, notice and respond and have some choices in the moment is what we're here to, hopefully share and expand everybody's um,
Spiritual toolbox.
toolbox and awareness, so that
Yeah.
as new things might be happening, you can just get curious and ask your team, like, what the fuck is happening right now? I ask that question a lot.
I love that so much.
And
Yeah, and
then,
you can ask tell your kids too that they have this access too, that they have their spirit squad or a team or, uh, you know, angels, however you want to put it out there, that there are people looking out for them and that they can access them at any time and ask for help.
yeah. Well, my guess is they already know that. And so maybe the pro move as a parent would be to ask them, hey, do you have any interesting, magical, mystical experiences? And
Yeah.
tell me about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, like, as a young person, I would have loved for somebody to ask me questions like that. Instead, I had a grandpa who was like, people who talk to themselves go to the loony bin,
Right.
and things like that. Not helpful. Um, Note to self, don't let people
No.
know you're talking to yourself,
Right.
your spirit team. But
Yeah. Those are
yeah,
all good points. I like to say that just like sometimes we forget how we can ask for help, I think kids can forget too as they move further along. So, however they get into it, get that reminder um, is important. I've got my daughter about to look in. Okay, no.
nice. Well, I think this is a great place to wrap it up. And who knows? I mean, this went long, so maybe this is two podcasts. We'll have to see.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree. But I think we touched on some really amazing things, and Oh my gosh, if we want to talk, just to close out like the other things that we're going to talk about in part two,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
um, the other spiritual gifts and manifestation, precognition, seeing the future,
Oh,
right? And we can talk about how it also manifests in a child. Retrocognition, so seeing the past. We talked about mediumship and channeling, healing abilities, hands-on
mhm.
healing, intentional healing, and yeah, we can talk about like how we move through all that as well.
Yeah. So I just want to invite people, get curious and start, if you're already aware of some of the gifts you have, play with them and get more attuned and more masterful at using your gifts uh,
Yes.
for the best and highest of yourself and all. And then, like explore if there's something new that you experience instead of I think we tend to kind of like brush things off like
Hmm.
I don't know, just like oh that was weird or whatever. And we don't get curious and dive in of like, well, what was that I just said or did or heard or thought or.
Yeah.
So just curiosity, I think, is
Yeah.
a good invitation for this week and tune into what
Yeah.
your Clairs are.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Totally. Be curious and call in what you think those clears might be. That would be a super fun exercise for people, you know. And then if you do have kids, ask them if they have a spirit team or spirit squad or whatever they may call it something else entirely. But stay curious and don't react in fear if they do say, "Oh yeah, well, I've got the Zoom team or whatever," and they're like, "The what?" Um,
Yeah. Maybe
and
it's an invisible friend or, like you said,
mhm.
grandpa showing up at night. And so instead of, I guess, curiosity is the theme.
Well, and if they need some more guidance, what is a website where they could contact you? Do you have a way that they can reach out, or should they drop
I don't.
right now?
Do
Okay.
you?
Yeah, they can go to I'm on Instagram, so at I am Kimberly Crawford, or they can go to my website, ourluminouswellbeing.com.
That's wonderful.
And
Thank
yeah,
you
so
for your generosity in opening for questions. I think I shared, I've been doing a lot of work in the background for humanity and the earth, and I haven't been very, forward facing for a long time.
mhm.
So
This is very forward facing and this is a deep service that you're offering. So this is plenty. This is plenty. Yeah. The life story. Yeah. Well, and they can also check out our two videos before. We can put the links in the show notes, or we'll link them down below once I figure that out. So so be ready for all the technical wizardry. Let's do it. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing space with us. We appreciate you all out there. And Shannon, I adore you and I appreciate you deeply. Thank you. Awesome. Mhm. Goodbye for now.